Daniel, let's just start with you as you're the founder and CEO. Tell us about fair chance hiring as a concept and ultimately how that evolved into Checkr.
Yes, so those two things are quite independent. So Checkr, we are a background check software company. We started over 8 years ago. And as we do background checks, we, of course, are very familiar to criminal records and how those affect employment and jobs. And so for us, we discovered fair chance hiring, I would say, 1 year into starting the company. We were talking a lot with candidates who have criminal records, who are being rejected. So really, my co-founder and I starting to empathize and listen to life stories of parents, of people really trying to get a better job, to restart their life and being blocked again and again by a mistake they've done in the past. We wanted to learn more. We wanted to build a product that's positive for the world, that doesn't block people. And so we actually went to prison visits and prison programs to join trainings and leadership development programs in prison. And that's really when we met amazing individuals, and we realized that there's already a great infrastructure in the US of nonprofits and partners who are helping people re-enter the workforce and get into jobs. And so that's fair chance hiring. Fair chance hiring is been also called second chance hiring. So it's really giving someone with a criminal record a second chance to get a job in your company. And it's become a big part of our mission at Checkr to build a fair future. We're big advocates of fair chance hiring. We do it in our company. We have over 50 employees who are formerly incarcerated, some of our best talent. We're really excited to have Amalia here, one of our software engineers, with us. And we're here to share with us the benefits of fair chance hiring with all of you and see if we can help more businesses succeed through that diversity initiative.
And Amalia, on that note, can you tell us a little bit more about your story?
Yeah, sure. My name is Amalia Bryant, and I am a software engineer at Checkr. But more than that, I'm also one of Checkr's fair chance hires. So what that means is that I did some time in a prison system, but did some time rehabilitating myself, got out, worked on developing the skill set to become a software engineer, and then interviewed with Checkr, where I've begun my career.
You make it sound so easy, but I can imagine it was not. Can you just tell us a little bit about that transition from the prison system into a software engineer of all things, something I know I myself could not do? What was it like for you?
Yeah, I didn't think it was going to happen. But yeah, when I first got out, I had this really naive perception of what it would be like to rejoin the workforce. I had done a lot of rehabilitation programs while incarcerated. I had earned my AS degree in business management. I done several vocational trainings and then got out, started applying for jobs, and I was being rejected because of the fact that I had a background. My history was more than 10 years ago, but it was showing up on some of the background reports, which meant that I was not going to get the job for the jobs that I was applying for.
Until Checkr came along. So Daniel, just walk us through your thinking, what you saw in Amalia, and if there are enough companies like yours who are willing to give second chances to people like her.
Yes, there are not enough companies like ours. I would say fair chance hiring is a very nascent movement. Diversity and inclusion, DE&I, is very mainstream, and I think most businesses are starting to be convinced of the value. But businesses are overlooking tens of millions of people who have a criminal record. There's over 70 million people in the US with a criminal record. It disproportionately affects minorities, Black people, Hispanics. 56% of people incarcerated are Black or Hispanics. And so if companies want to become diverse, but then are rejecting out of the gate people with a record, really they shoot themselves into the foot in terms of diversity and inclusion. So I think that the reason why companies don't do it as often is because of fear and also the myth of someone with a criminal record is going to be a danger or risk to your business. And so at Checkr, since we're in the data, we see the people, we understand the nuance of criminal records, we realize that there's a lot of value, and we want to debunk some of the myth that everyone with a record is a bad person that should never get a job. That's not the truth. And Amalia and many of our Checkr employees are some of the highest performing, most promoted people in our company. And so we want to bring those benefits to other businesses. and make it easier to hire. I mean, it's not that, I think many CEOs and HR leaders want to potentially give second chances, but I think implementing it and actually doing it, there's a lot of friction, a lot of paperwork, a lot of legal barriers. And so we want to kind of help companies do the first step and get started in fair chance hiring so they can get some of the great benefits in terms of talent, diversity, and business performance at the end of the day.
So what's the first step towards that? How exactly do you help when, as you say, there is whether or not it's an internal barrier of just perception and fear or actual legal, logistical, bureaucratic barriers? How do you start?
So I think the first step is really buy-in from leadership. Similarly to other ESG initiatives, whether you want to work on environment or social or others, I think if the leadership team, the CEO of the company is not bought in, those teams are always going to be more isolated and not really be able to make an impact. So I think step one is having on board the leadership of the company to understand that diversity, fair chance hiring is actually a huge business benefit. Once you're there, then there are steps to get the workforce and the employee base comfortable and excited about those initiatives, piloting and doing experiments in small teams of, let's get started with one small team to, partner with Checkr, a nonprofit, to do an internship program or apprenticeship program to get started. And from there, you can prove the value and continue. So that's what we've been through. We've made a lot of, mistakes and learnings at Checkr. And we have a Checkr Foundation, checkr.org, where we open source and share all of those learnings for free. And we also organize workshops for other business leaders who want to start on that journey.
And obviously getting started is an important step one, but it's one thing to get someone in the door. It's another thing to keep them there and enable them to climb the ladder, essentially. So Amalia, how are you thinking about not only the chance to be hired by a company like this, but making sure that those people, once they are in the door, actually can succeed and further their careers along the way?
Yeah, one of the awesome things that Checkr did was from the moment that I was hired, they had a fair chance advocate within the company, she would be my go-to for any questions that I had, if I had any concerns, if I just needed to be heard, because re-entering into the workforce is difficult. You have this perception of your supervisor as an authority figure, because usually in like a prison system, there's somebody that has punitive power over you. So being able to have somebody to help me kind of switch that role, in addition to having really supportive supervisors that were focused on my growth and supporting me regardless. I think that those two things were really important. And then another thing that Checkr also does to support me is we have a community resource group of Fair Chance ambassadors. And so basically this is a group of people like me who have also been formerly incarcerated, and they can also provide that support if something's happening during the day, something comes up, like there's that support there, the people who also understand what it's like to have been incarcerated and are working in a company.
So if a company is looking to do more fair chance hiring, it's not just about fixing your hiring practices or widening the net. It is also about making sure internally there are resources available to help those people, essentially, is what you're saying. Do you think you could have succeeded otherwise in that transition had those not been available?
I think that the chances of being successful would have dropped slightly. Okay. I think that having those resources in place helped retain me.
And obviously, resources are resources. It is a business decision at the end of the day to expend those. So as a business leader, talk to us about, you've mentioned how having more diversity in this form can be good for your business. But can you just talk us through about how you really see that translate?
Yes, so I assume that most of you are bought in that diversity, drives to better business performance. I think over the last decades, lots of studies from McKinsey and others that if you have a diverse workforce, your company is going to be more creative, you're going to have a better culture, people are going to be more excited to join your company. So that's definitely, something we've seen at Checkr and we believe in. And for fair chance hiring, I would say, if you really are serious about diversity, you have to think about fair chance hiring in the hiring process to allow qualified talents to come into your company. I'd say there's other business benefits. So at the end of the day, I think all of those initiatives, diversity, fair chance hiring, ESG, that companies do them really sincerely if they believe in the business value. I think it's great to feel good, but at the end of the day, businesses are focused on profits and they want to succeed and win market share, and that's the truth in the board and with any CEOs and leadership teams. And so I think the most important is to link this to see how can we build a more profitable, faster growing company thanks to these initiatives. I think about two things, your customers and your employees. So your customers, your industries are very different. For us, our customers care about talents, they care about brands. And so fair chance hiring can allow our customers to improve their brands, to attract Gen Z talent, to have a purpose-driven company with values. Like that's important today can be important for customers to achieve their business needs. Another topic that's top of mind is the talent shortage, right? There's not enough workers, not enough immigrants. But there's tens of millions of people, qualified that are overlooked with a criminal record. So I think if you can connect the customer value, the employee value, your employee brand, customer brand of your company as well to be differentiated, to diversity or to fair chance hiring, that's how you drive better growth with your customers, better profitability by having strong talents that you retain. So to me, I would really focus on what's the business case in your company for fair chance talent rather than just the feel-good right thing to do, which is also very important, of course, but so much more powerful when it's aligned with the business priorities.
So Amalia, for you and this broader community you've spoken of with Checkr and those like you who you've been able to work closely with and discuss your experiences with, how do you see them adding that value? And can they bring a different kind of perspective that would otherwise be unheard in a business environment?
Yeah, for people who have been incarcerated, I can't even begin to describe what that experience is like. For me, working for Checkr, my experience having been the candidate that's applying, I can provide that feedback into our product. I can talk to what it was like to get that email saying, you're not going to be hired because this is on your record. So yeah, there's going to be those unique experiences that people have had re-entering in society that, depending on the business case, would be valuable there.
And on that note of just kind of the easy rejections, Daniel, what nuances should businesses be looking for rather than just flat out writing someone off because of the record that they may have?
Yes, so the background check process is very complex. Criminal records are very diverse, different in every jurisdiction. So it's a pretty heavy process to review every record, understand and make a business decision. And so we understand why most businesses choose the easy path of, I have 1,000 candidates, I need to go through resumes quickly, I need to make that higher. So what we're trying to do is to streamline that process, to make it, in the job description, make it obvious that you are a fair chance hire, you are open to diverse candidates, and you want to welcome them to apply to a company. That's the first step. And then within the review process, we provide simple tools so that HR teams can configure what are their jobs, what are their rules, what type of criminal records matter or don't matter, and then when to review and really streamline that so that it only takes them a few minutes instead of hours. By doing those things, you can really start to bring more talent in the pipeline. And so that's really a win-win for the candidate and for the business.
As we talk about kind of applications and the assessing of them, my mind also goes to other things you have to apply for, like college, where we have seen serious pushback against the idea of affirmative action, for example. Proponents of it will say it helps to broaden diversity. Others will say it's unfair. There have been actual legal cases surrounding this. So I'm wondering how that pushback may translate into this arena. If you, Daniel, have had anyone kind of bring those ideas to you about this not being fair, but being unfair.
Yeah, I can't talk about affirmative action in universities, but what comes to mind is within our company, how do we set our diversity goals, right? Do you do a hard quota? How do you hire the candidate when, if the candidate diverse and another one? So the way I think about it is first, diversity, it's not like a binary decision. It's not like I have to choose between a diverse candidate or the best candidate. I'm like, no, the best candidate is a diverse candidate and is the best candidate. It's an and, it's not an or. But at the same time, I'm an engineer, so I believe in data and I believe in having accountability and goals you can measure. If you can't measure something, how can you make progress? So at Checkr, the way we've improved our diversity from the early days is we've had diversity hiring goals. And those are goals, those are guidelines. We said we have 3% of our employees are fair chance. We're going to want to grow this to 5% next year. Or we have 20% underrepresented minorities. We want to grow this to 25% next year to better reflect our community and talent pool. So we've had those goals. We've helped hiring managers, enable them and the process to be successful. But those are not quotas or hard goals on a specific job. We're not going to say 20% of the team needs to be that category. So I think having ambitious goals, but also the flexibility has allowed us to really increase diversity without feeling like a forced decision, which is counterproductive.
Okay, so flexibility is the message there rather than having a hard quota number. Amalia, you mentioned earlier that you did a lot of work while still in the PRISM system in order to enable you to be something like a software engineer when you exited. How do you think that factored into kind of your application process when trying to get a job in the real world? How necessary was that? Or did you find that there are resources externally that would have enabled you to do the same thing?
I think that my journey is unique to me, but my journey started out in a coding boot camp that was inside the prison. They had resources when I was paroled. Outside of the prison system, it was in this program. And they were actually the ones that were able to help me continue to foster my skills and help me with the resume writing process. So I think that those kind of programs are very essential for people like me.
So when you re-entered as a software engineer, how have you been able to adapt to that learning curve, working once again as a professional? I know you mentioned some of the more human resources aspects of it, just having that personal connection, but the actual, I'm going to do my job better as a skill, how are those resources important as well?
I think that when I started with Checkr, I already had this skill set. So for me, it was just a matter of learning maybe some tools that corporate America probably takes for granted. Like I had to learn how to use Zoom when I first got out, and I had to learn how to use Google Suite. I didn't have access to those things. So I think that the way that Checkr was able to support me through learning those things was the actual community resource group that I mentioned with the Fair Chance hiring. And then also my team is very supportive. I can be very transparent and ask those stupid questions and not get penalized for it.
There's no such thing as a stupid question.
Yeah.
No, but it's a really good point. The world moves so quickly and evolves so quickly, and I'm sure there is a certain degree of catch-up that is needed for any time away. I mean, even if I were to put my phone away for a month, it probably would do tricks that it didn't do before I put it away. So that's definitely a consideration. Daniel, I know you mentioned you were working at getting this practice to be adapted by more businesses. Can you walk us through those efforts in particular? I understand, and I have it written down, you have an accelerator for companies that are interested in doing this. So can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, so we really want to bring those benefits to millions of businesses around the world, small businesses or large companies. What's great is we see some good traction and adoption now. It is, Chase is a fair chance employer, Walmart, Microsoft, Slack. So it's really becoming more and more mainstream, which is really exciting. So we have a Checkr.org foundation. So we put 1% of our resources, the 1% pledge, into our foundation in order to provide free benefits to other businesses and education. So we have a boot camp and accelerator where we bring businesses through a multi-week program to be hands-on and really help them get the leadership buy-in, change the way they hire, get the HR team and legal team in place, start a small pilot to prove the value. So we're excited it's open to any businesses, and we want to continue to scale that through our nonprofit efforts. And the upskilling you mentioned is also very important. I think when we talk to candidates and work with other businesses, once they're bought in, the number one gap is the skills. and especially the tech skills, how to use Windows, Zoom, Google Suite, or Microsoft tools. Those can, or email, those can seem like basic for professionals. We've done it maybe for many years, but that is a big gap for fair chance talent sometimes coming out of prison without those skills. So we try to partner with different nonprofits and places to kind of do a quick training onboarding. We're looking at doing that before the person starts, but also we want to do training during the job, right? So Amalia was able to get directly to a software engineering job, so like a high-paid, top tech job. But we also have a lot of people who maybe start in a lower position, like customer support or sales. And then we've seen many people succeed to go into management or to move to engineering potentially now that they were enabled and had that stability.
A lot of this seems like it is the prerogative of the business itself, and just the private sector needs to be the one to be willing to do this and take this on. Is there anything that the public sector or on a more kind of broader governmental level do you think that could be done to encourage these kind of practices in businesses?
For sure. I mean, I'm a business leader, so I believe that we can't wait for government to make changes. We have to move quickly as businesses to do. And the good thing is, like here, we're doing something great for building businesses, creating jobs, but also I think it helps society and people, be active workers and taxpayers and citizens rather than, being locked in a prison. So that is very much a win-win. And yes, of course, on the policy side, there are still many, many barriers. If you look at the financial service sector, there's lots of legacy rules and regulations that are extremely strict on felonies and criminality that could be updated to still provide, of course, safety against, fraud and risk, but also have, come into the 21st century and allow people to get a second chance, after they've proven themselves. So yes, for sure, the policy sector can make changes as well. But as businesses, we can't wait. We have to make an impact now.
And Amalia, finally, what would your message to businesses be? Those listening online, those here in attendance who may be thinking about implementing these practices, what would you like to tell them?
I think the message that I would like people to walk away with today is that fair chance hiring doesn't have to be scary. It doesn't have to be this big unknown thing. Like Daniel mentioned earlier, there are options to kind of take it slowly and get to know the people as people and not just as the number that they might have been in the system. There's growth. People do not stay where they were 5-10 years ago. There's change that happens. There's skills that are acquired. There's just so much more to a person as they re-enter society, and to not just look at the crime or the offense that happened, but look at who they are today. I would love for business owners to see that today.